Hello crafty friends, it's Donna here from Donna is Playing Paper, and I have just one card to share with you today, and it's been made with two cover plate dies used together. The first of these is this stitching cover plate die, which cuts a bunch of tiny holes in a grid on your paper. I used regular 80-pound cardstock, and that worked out perfectly. Although you could use a heavier cardstock if you wish. And I poked the holes out, but you could just wait until you were stitching and poke them out as you go. And the second cover plate die that I'm using is called the Abstract cover plate die, and I'll link to another video where I've used this same die at the end of this video. For this cover plate die, I've actually made a stencil. There's a few different things that you could use to make a stencil. Any thick card would do, or Yupo paper, or acetate sheets, or, as I've done today, this alcohol ink art paper. It's a bit like Yupo, but a little thinner. It's just what I picked up when I was in Japan. Once I've got my stencil made, I'm going to line that up with my background with all of the holes in it. And it does line up really quite well. You'll see at the end there were really only two tiny triangles that I wasn't happy that I was able to get good coverage of by just placing the cover plate so that there was a nice little dot in each corner. I'm going to use Spun Sugar Distress Ink. I've chosen it because it's dark enough to definitely give a good strong outline to these geometric shapes, but light enough that the stitching will still stand out against it. And I'm going to quickly ink blend over my whole stencil. No need to be too precious about this. Most of it will be covered up by stitching anyway. Because this stencil is made of this sort of plasticky paper, I'm going to be able to reuse this over and over. It had a little bit of staining, but I gave it a wipe anyway, and I've put that aside to use next time. And then I've delved right back into a past life as a cross stitcher and grabbed out a whole lot of pink thread that I had lying around, and I'm going to stitch with all 6 strands of this thread together. These are DMC threads, and many cross stitch and embroidery threads come with 6 strands, and often you'll just pull out 1 or 2 or 3 strands for your project, but I'm using all 6 because I've got nice big holes and a fairly large space that I want to cover with the thread. And I'm just going to work my way up and back making crosses. As I work, I'm going to do my best to catch my starting thread at the back. You don't need to be too precious about the back because it's not going to have any wear and tear on it. It's going to be stuck in the middle of your card. As you work, you might like to be fussy about which way your top thread leans. So mine all lean up towards the top left. You could have them leaning towards the top right. It doesn't really matter which one you choose, but I think the stitching will look neater if they all go the same direction. If it doesn't worry you, then you just do it however makes your heart happy. I filled out most of each of the areas with full crosses, but as I got towards a curve, I just put in a few half crosses. Depending on the angle of the curve, I just put in half of the cross only in the direction that that curve was flowing. I hope that makes sense to you. I've only taken footage of this first shape being filled in, because after that, it's just a repeat of the same thing over and over and over. So I'll spare you all the details. I actually took this with me. I threw all of those little cottons into a bag with a needle and some tiny scissors, and I took it out and about and finished this away from home. And then when I got back later that day, I was ready to construct my card. As I finished stitching each section, I just wove my ends through at the back and then cut everything off nice and close to my stitched area so that you couldn't see any extra threads hanging around at the back. You could use tape to do this as well. One of the elements is paper, after all. Once I'd finished my stitching, I decided that I'd like to cut my panel down just a tiny bit. There are 2 rows of stitching on the outside, and I decided that I would like only one. And so I'm very carefully trimming one of those holes off, cutting it as close as I can to the holes that I'm removing so that I get a nice border on the outside of the remaining holes. Does that make any sense? And I originally thought about this nice big thanks, but I felt like it covered too much of the stitching, and the stitching wasn't quick. So in the end I went with this much smaller hello. It comes with a border as well, and so I stuck those together and then started playing around with where I wanted to put it. This way up that you can see now feels like the right way up, but I really wanted to cover two of those little dark purple sections where I felt like the holes didn't quite line up with the triangles. And so I've decided to use the panel in what feels to me like upside down, but I know that's not logical because those curves go in every direction. But first of all, I'm just going to foam tape this to a card base, and I'm using up a piece of foam that I had left over that was already adhesive on one side, and that's finished off that packet. As you may know, I'm doing a big clean out before I move countries to go and live in Japan, so any packet that I can finish off is a victory. I've folded back two of the corners on that double-sided tape, and I'm using the other two corners to maneuver that into place because they're not sticky yet. And when I'm happy with where it is, I will press down the other corners and then just slide out that double-sided tape backing. I'm going to use foam tape to pop up the sentiment. Although this card did take quite a while to make, I actually spent very little time at my craft desk, and so it was a lot of fun. I'm going to leave you with some pictures of the finished card. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll be back soon with another video. Bye for now.